Hello Saints, welcome in for another midweek video. Took a little break last week. I was literally out of the country. Back in the saddle today. I was thinking about one verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It's the very last verse in chapter 15. And Paul finishes this section up and then he begins his salutation in 16. But he says this, therefore, and you can read the therefore on your own time. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. I suppose probably one of the greatest hindrances we have to the extension of the kingdom of God into the earth is that most of us feel inadequate, or we feel like what we're doing is vain, or it's vanity. It's really not accomplishing anything. We think things like, well, I just get up and go to the factory every day and punch in the time clock and do my job. I go work on the plumbing, and I'm a painter, I'm a school teacher, I'm a songwriter, I'm a electrician, and the list goes on. You see where we're headed. A lot of times we think that what we do doesn't count. In other words, what we're doing is in vain. And we're not alone in there, but that will handicap us and keep us from doing the work of the Lord. And as Paul says, abounding in the work of the Lord, because we don't see that what we're doing is the work of the Lord. I've heard people say down through the years, boy, I wish I could get out of this secular job so I could go serve God. And I've said to them, you realize you're serving God right where you are? As a matter of fact, 1 Corinthians chapter 7 teaches us that when you come to Christ, you remain wherever you are. Whatever you're doing, whatever vocation you're in, you remain there. Now, God may move you, He may change it. But your role in your community, your role in life is not vanity, it's not ungodly. I don't even like using the word secular, because you have that job, or you have that relationship, or you have that position because God put you there. And you serve God by serving the people around you, serving the community. You're extending God's kingdom by demonstrating agape to everybody that you come in contact with. So I'm reading this to you, that you would be steadfast, and that you would be immovable and always abounding. Abounding is the key word, in the work of the Lord. Knowing that your labor, listen, I'm talking to you, your labor is not in vain. It counts. We don't all have to be apostles, and we don't all have to be pastors and teachers, and we don't all have to be evangelists and prophets and all the other things that we see with glazed eyes. And I've said many times, and I still believe it, the largest majority of the work for the kingdom of God is not done by apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. The largest portion of the work, maybe most of the portion of the work of the Lord, is done by everybody else. It's done by people who would consider themselves just regular folks, just living their lives. Well, I'm telling you today that you're not just a regular folk. You've been born again by the Spirit of God. You've been inhabited by the Spirit of God. And that everywhere you go, you carry with you the kingdom of God and the message of the kingdom of God. And sometimes you communicate that with words, and sometimes you communicate that with your life. What you're doing is not in vain. I think of three people, and we'll just go through this. First of all, I think of Gideon. Now here's Gideon. He's hiding in a wine press because the Midianites have them surrounded, and he's threshing wheat, trying to come up with something to eat. He's scared to death. That's why he's hiding. And when the angel of the Lord comes, and I believe it was a Christophany, an appearance of Jesus, when the angel of the Lord comes and speaks to Gideon, he's scared to death. He said, "What are you doing here, and who are you?" And so we see that Gideon he's just hiding. And he says, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to lead the armies. And Gideon can't believe that's what he wants him to do. You know, I can't do that. I'm not the guy for that. And ultimately, of course, Gideon says, you know, offers the fleeces. Don't knock Gideon for the fleeces. And ultimately, God says, we're going to whittle this down to 300 guys. And Gideon at this point thinks, okay, I mean, I'm in or I'm out. And he goes on and gains the victory. And then I thought of Moses. You know, God called Moses to lead the nation of Israel. Moses said to God, I don't know, why are you calling me? I can't even talk. I stutter. And why would you use me? I'm just a regular old guy. And God said, well, if you don't think you can talk, then you go with your brother Aaron and he'll be your mouthpiece, but I'm going to use you anyway. Now, these two guys overcame their own timidity. These two guys overcame viewing themselves as what they're doing doesn't count. And of course, we know that Moses, you know, until Jesus came along, Moses was the hero of the Jewish people. And of course, I guess he still is in some ways. And we know that Gideon obviously won a great victory with 300 men. And then we get to Saul, King Saul, who's the children of Israel. They clamor. They want a king. They want to be like everybody else. They want a king. Give us a king. And so God says, okay, here's the guy that I want you to be their king, and his name is Saul. And what does Saul say when they come to him? He said, why are you talking to me? I'm of the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest clan, the smallest tribe in all of Israel, and I belong to the smallest clan in Benjamin. I can't believe that you think I can do this. And later on, Samuel tells him, he says, you know, even though you stood and stand head and shoulders above all the other people, you seem little in your own eyes. You seem small in your own eyes. And that's the problem that Saul had. He saw himself as small in his own eyes. Now, here's the difference between Moses and Gideon and Saul. Saul began to make efforts to cover his, and I'll use the word smallness. He began to lie. He began to fudge. He began to capture animals when he wasn't supposed to, and he began to justify his actions. And ultimately, God ripped the kingdom from him. Both Moses and Gideon, while they were timid and while they didn't feel like they were up to the task, and they saw their effort and their ability as minute, they both continued on, they both continued on and went ahead and did what God asked them to do, even though they didn't see how they could be valuable to God's plan. I'm saying to you today that your labor is not in vain. That what you're doing for Christ every day, every minute of every day, every hour of every day, what you're doing is not in vain. It may be going to the park and walking around and God directing you to someone that needs encouragement. It may be just encouraging the girl at the checkout in the grocery store. It may be at your kids' or grandkids' ball game that you stand next to a parent or grandparent and you strike up a conversation and you discover they need encouragement. Whatever may be the case, don't let it be said that what you're doing doesn't count. Don't let it be said that what you're doing is just doing it in vain, that all the other spiritual people are getting it done. That's not true. You're getting it done. So I'll read the verse and we'll close this out. Therefore, be steadfast, be immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that the Lord, that in the Lord, I should have my glasses on, your labor is not in vain. Now you carry on and go out there and act like somebody. Good day.